There's been a lot of chat in our yoga and workout groups lately about feeling like you have weak wrists and wanting to build strength, and someone asked me to share some of the knowledge I have, so here we go. I'm Katie, not a doctor, for various reasons, been through a lot of physiotherapy and learned quite a lot about how to take care of your body and wrists and forearms in particular. So, going to talk about warming up, adapting certain yoga and other exercise moves, the main thing being strength training, the 5 different movements you can do to build up strength all around your wrists and arms, and then stretching. So firstly, for warming up, I'm actually not going to go all through this because the lovely Luna has made a follow-along video for warming up, so please go and do that. But just to emphasize, before strength training, warming up is super important. You need to think about 2 things. One is the mobility of your joints, so kind of getting all your wrists and all your finger joints and your elbow through all the different ranges of motion. And the second thing is actually warming up muscles. So a really good one we should do is tucking a thumb, making a fist. A lot of people do just this, but actually making the fist and giving it a slight pull, you'll instantly feel the stretch down this muscle. The other thing to be really mindful of is make sure when you're warming up, you do lots of shorter, kind of dynamic stretching, if you know the lingo, lots of shorter stretches rather than doing one long stretch. Don't just do this and stretch for 30 seconds. That's great after your workout or for general lengthening and flexibility, but it weakens the muscle temporarily. So shorter ones, take some deep breaths, just kind of one breath each, and do lots of shorter movements and slowly feel kind of a deeper stretch each time. But definitely watch Luna's video. So firstly, adapting. There are things you can do, but one of the main things you should know is technique. So I'm just going to lift this very high-tech box and blue tack system down here so you can see my yoga mat. So the most important thing is when I go into any kind of position for yoga or anything where I'm on my hands, I'm not just plonking my hands down and letting the weight go through here. You're actually spreading your fingers out, placing them purposefully on the mat, and the weight is distributed through your fingers and through these knuckle joints here. So like the weight is fingers and here. Imagine you could almost slide a piece of paper under your palm. Or if your palm is touching, like that, all that weight is distributed through your whole fingers and hand and these joints, not straight on this wrist joint. The other thing people do is go on their fists sometimes. So I often do this. You can also use your thumbs there for extra stability. Can be a good substitute. It's not as stable, so don't do anything you're going to fall down. And also, that does still put strain through. You still need these muscles. But for some people like me, where you're particularly weak in flexion at 90 degrees, then this can be a good substitute. The other thing you can do is just totally adapt moves. So planks and that kind of thing you can also do on your elbows or like this, rather than being on your wrists altogether. So find out what works for you. The other adapting you can do is about the angle of your wrist. So a lot of people do press-ups, or don't do press-ups rather, because they think they're not strong enough. Or they might do them on their knees, which is cool because that kind of slightly lessens the load through your arms, so lets you start building up those muscles. But if you're doing them on your knees, flat on the floor, your wrist is still in that 90-degree angle, which might cause you trouble. So another adaptation you can do for press-ups is actually to do them on an incline. So if you're not that strong, start against a wall or against a kitchen counter, so your whole body is like this. I would do them somewhere like this, ideally in a gym on a workout bench, but we can't do that right now. So find something that is kind of raised or bench height. Do your press-up there, but on your toes. Is not actually in shot, but the key point being, if you are at an incline, instead of your wrists being at 90 degrees, they're actually more like 45. So you can't see me, but I promise I'm there in shot doing a press up. So go on your toes and go at an angle rather than trying to be flat and being at 90 degrees. So let's talk about strengthening. Your wrists are wonderful creatures. They bend in a lot of different directions. 5 to be precise. So they rotate. It's pretty amazing. It's coming from your elbow as well, but your wrist rotating. They go forwards, they go backwards, they go sideways, and they go the other sideways. So if we're going to so every one of those movements needs a muscle. So if we're going to strength train, we should actually be training all of those. So to set up, we are, slightly adjust this camera. Again, ideally, lean over a workout bench, but we don't have those. So we have knees. You can also put a cushion on your knees to make that a little bit more stable if you're feeling a bit bony and wobbly. You need to get your forearms on a stable base. I'm going to hold the weights. The grip is important as well. So you might be more used to holding something called power grip. It's really sturdy if you're lifting something over your head. But actually for these, just for finer muscle movement, you're going to take less strain through your wrists if you have your thumbs next to your fingers and just wrapped around from the same side of your fingers instead of being around like that. So this is our setup. If you've got weights at home, great. If you haven't, there's lots of resources online for how to do some makeshift weights. But the first thing I'm going to show you is these rotations. So get yourself stable and rotate. Find whatever your natural range of movement is. If it's not quite 180 degrees, don't force it. Just do whatever feels natural. And we're going to go slow and controlled. So the goal here is going to be to do 15 reps, where a rep is out and in again. And in terms of the actual weight to use, I'm using 3 kilogram ones here. I would start much less if your wrists are weak or this is new to you, like even 1 kilogram will be really good. It might not feel like much strain, but do that for a few days just to get your muscles used to working in these ranges of movements and having some load on them, and then build up from there. Now, I know a lot of people don't have weights right now, so there are resources online for how to do makeshift home gyms. So you can do all sorts of things. Fill up a metal water bottle. If you're using water or liquid, make sure you fill it up right to the top, because especially when you're doing this, imagine this is a water bottle with air one end, that's going to be shifting the weight unevenly, and that might not necessarily be good for your muscle. So be careful with that one. Generally something, the narrower the hold, the better. If you've got a big old toolbox in the shed, I have genuinely done this with like wrenches. Pretty ghetto. But anything you can hold safely. So a big wide can isn't ideal, but if that's all you've got, then it's still going to be doing you some good. So after you've done your 15, give it a shake out. It's really important to get blood flowing back again in the muscles in between reps. Now we're going to be doing 15 reps, and you ideally want to do 2 or 3 sets. It takes a while, so it's a really good one to do in front of Netflix. But in terms of the weight, you shouldn't be feeling too much fatigue until you start getting round to those like 12, 13, 14, 15 reps. If it starts feeling fatigued before then go lighter. Because we're not strength training. Strength training is where you kind of get the heaviest weight you can lift and do a few reps, and that's good for some things, but this is stamina training, so you want to do more reps at a lower weight. And if you have any pain, so I'd expect a bit of fatigue sensation along here, that's okay. If you have any sharp pain in your wrists or in your elbows, stop, leave it a few days, go to a much lower weight. If you have any specific injuries or wrist fractures, bless you, Britta, anything specifically a physiotherapist or a doctor has told you, follow what they say. And if you get any specific sharp pains, then stop, as I say. And just focus on some of even just the warming up. If you do that daily, that's going to be a good base. So back to the strength training. Number 1 was rotation. Let's start with the directions. So let's start again, exactly the same grip, same base on your knees. Let your hands hang down there, and we're going to slowly raise. Really important you come down slow and controlled here. Don't just let them flop. You can do yourself an injury. So raise and lower. This will feel heavier than the other one, so if you have the luxury of smaller weights, go to a lower weight for this, because we still want to aim for 15 reps. Slow and controlled. If you're used to using your breath for things, then breathe out as you put the load on, and then breathe in. Okay. So I'm not going to do all the reps because this would be really long. Maybe I'll do a follow along if anyone asks really nicely. Give them a shake out. So that was your vertical raises. The next ones are going to be like baby bicep curls for your wrists. So exactly the same setup, same grip, get yourself stable. And what we're going to do is little curls up like this. And the weight's kind of rolling. I feel like it's down in my fingers there and kind of rolling up into my palm. Not moving the weight deliberately, but just through that range of movement, it is kind of rolling slightly in my hand. Don't force it at the top further than it feels like it should go, just until where it's comfortable. Right, So that's 3. So if you only do those 3, kind of a couple of sets on each, that's a good basis, really good place to start. If you're interested in getting a little bit more thorough, then I'll show you the other 2. This takes a long time, but it's really good to do in front of Netflix because you can just sit and do these. So the sideways movements, so we're going to set up in parallel like this. Remember to keep your thumbs on the same side as your fingers, and this is going to be, you're just kind of raising your thumbs, what's my wrist clicking? Raise your thumbs towards the sky and drop down as fast. This is a really small movement, so don't push the range any more than it needs to. It's a small movement, but you're still engaging these muscles down the sides of your arms here, which helps stabilize your wrists. So again, 15 sets like this. And shake it out. Always got to shake it out. And then finally, the other direction's awkward. You can't do both at the same time. You do just one. So, because we need to raise in the outer direction. So what I'm doing is I'm resting my elbow on my knee. I'm supporting that forearm, making it horizontal, and then tiny raise. So I'm just raising that kind of outer side of my hand where the little finger is up in the rotation. So I'm doing that exactly. It's in one plane of movement, so it's not rotating at all. I'm aiming to keep all of this kind of in the same plane and just move like that. Same deal, 15 reps. So that's all the strengthening. And the only final comment to make is about stretching. So when I said earlier, do lots of short stretches, now would be the time to do a longer stretch. So same technique, put your thumb and your wrist, wrap your fingers, and then gently stretch like this. Take some deep breaths, maybe 8 to 10 breaths. If you prefer seconds, about 30 to 40 seconds is a good static stretch. And that'll just lengthen out this muscle here that we've been working on. Okay, and make sure you do kind of a little bit of rotation and things afterwards. There's one final stretch that works for me because a lot of my problems were related to tendons up here. It's called a neural stretch. So again, we're going to tuck our thumbs, wrap our fingers round, rotate your wrists out as far as it's comfortable, and then raise your arms diagonally back, kind of like you are flying. Now, when I first started doing this, it was so tight I could only get to here. Now I can raise quite far. Go wherever is comfortable for your body. But this isn't a regular muscle stretch. This is called a neural stretch. So you'll feel like a slightly unusual, maybe unfamiliar feeling, like all the way along your arm. But that can be really useful if you're kind of working out in this area as well. So try that for about 15-20 seconds, or a few deep breaths. And that's that. Wrists are great. Look after them. Take care of yourselves. Don't do anything that hurts too bad. And yeah.